We are entering the slow phase of the yearly game release cycle. There's only one major title announced for July, but there are some smaller games that could be interesting in their own right. Hey, in case you are new, I'm Virtual Panic. We talk about new VR games in this series. First we look at the games of last month to see if they are any good in the eyes of critics and players alike. Then we will preview everything that has a confirmed release date for July, or at least everything that looks interesting. On June 1st, the sword-fighting roguelike Battle Talent released on Steam and the Quest 2. No critics reviews for this one, but players enjoy it, with a strong 87 very positive rating on Steam. It is commonly likened to Blade and Sorcery, but with a more streamlined gameplay loop. Killer Frequency is a horror puzzle game by Team 17 that released also on June 1st as a flat game on every platform, and apparently it's great. Players and critics alike recommend it. A VR version dropped only for the Quest 2 on the same day, and that one also comes recommended by the VR Realm, for example. Quote, with all the cheesiness of the 80s mixed with horror, humor and tropes of the slasher movies from that time, it is a thrilling night to be the DJ on the late night show slot. End quote. The parkour platformer No More Rainbows also released on June 1st, this one on the Quest 2 and on Steam. Upload VR recommends it. Quote, No More Rainbows takes the classic platformer and brings it crashing into VR in a way that is both innovative and familiar. The excellent mechanics truly capitalize on the physicality of VR, matched with a solid campaign and a creative and exhausting multiplayer mode. Not many reviews on Steam, this one seems to be more appealing to the Quest audience. I can see why. Undead Citadel is a melee combat action adventure that dropped on Steam on June 8th. The expectations for this one were high, reception unfortunately not so much. No critics reviews. On Steam it sits at a mixed 63%, with the main complaint being that the combat feels lackluster, which is pretty damning for a melee combat game. The nostalgia-fueled and Atari-sanctioned game within a game pixel-ripped 1978 got a lot of media attention, so much that we have an open critic rating, a fair 73. Road to VR was in the middle of the field with their impression. Quote, pixel-ripped 1978 is another love letter to the bygone era of classic gaming, as it resurrects a handful of Atari classics under the full auspices of the iconic brand. While the first-person RPG focus is a little underbaked, it's hard to knock such a charming buffet of novelty that pays heartfelt homage to gaming's second console age. End quote. Very few user reviews for this one. There seems to be a disconnect here between media and player interest in the title. GrimLord is a VR Souls-like that dropped only on Steam on June 22nd. It's an early access release, so no media coverage yet. Players really like it though, resulting in an impressive 93% very positive rating. Stack is a PvP arena shooter or thrower. You have a disc and a shield, and with that engage in deathmatch and team deathmatch battles. It's a rather simple premise. The game released on June 22nd only for the Quest 2. There will be a Steam version at some point, but no release date for that so far. There are no critics reviews out for this one, and as the user ratings on the Meta Store are completely unmoderated and full of ads, it's pretty much impossible to gauge the general opinion about this one so far. C-Smash VRS is a VR reimagining of the over 20 years old Sega classic Cosmic Smash for the PSVR 2. Our go-to VR media outlets ignored this one, but as this is a PlayStation release, it was on the radar of a few flat games critics, resulting in a fair 70 on Open Critic. The general consensus seems to be that the single player is kinda meh, multiplayer could be dope if there were more players.
What is this place? How did I get here?
In Mindset, you'll have to solve puzzle cubes by placing cogs, rotating sides and generally fiddling with things. It looks easy on first glance, but will get challenging as you progress through the game. There's a fully voiced storyline that evolves with each cube you solve, and a demanding challenge mode for puzzle enthusiasts. The game is made by Carbon Studios, mainly known for their spellcasting Wizards games. They published a demo for a very similar game called Remo on Steam 2 years ago that apparently got abandoned. Not sure if this is the same game, it looks pretty much the same though. The main difference is that Mindset utilized hand tracking for controls. I think that's an interesting spin. This is definitely not Carbon's most ambitious project, but might be worth checking out if you enjoy the Quest's hand tracking feature. Mindset released on June 29th, only on the Quest 2.
This is it, Operator. Conrad's deepest subconscious. The Colonel is a member of an organization known as the Consortium. This threatened biological attack is a massive step up in their campaign, and we need to stamp it out.
Synapse. In this fast-paced roguelike shooter by Dreams, you wield firearms as well as telekinetic powers to battle your way through ever-changing environments. After each level you will unlock upgrades for your run. Between runs you can unlock permanent buffs to your character, pretty standard roguelike stuff. Not standard are the striking stylized visuals and the voice performances by industry legends David Hayter and Jennifer Hale. In some ways Synapse is a spiritual successor to one of Dreams' previous titles, Fracked. It at least inherits a cover system. The game's storyline will evolve while you play through 3 different difficulty settings. The ultimate truth only gets unveiled when you beat the game in hard mode. Dreams call themselves a AAA studio. I wonder if we ever see more ambitious games by them. Synapse has an incredible visual style and the best voice acting money can buy, but it's still a rather small project. It's a roguelike. The whole idea behind that concept is that players play the same content over and over again. They are comparatively cheap to make. The other game Dreams is working on right now is a co-op Ghostbusters game that also seems to be a smaller project. They just received a $35 million funding last year. I'm curious to see how they put that money to use. Synapse will release on July 4th, only for the PSVR 2.
I'm sorry, soldier. This place will be your grave, as it was mine.
In 1987, they were badass. In 2023, nothing has changed. Operation Wolf returns. First mission VR.
Operation Wolf was the so-called light gun shooter that released in 1987, originally only in arcades. Later it was ported to a lot of different consoles. The machine had a small Uzi attached to it, well, a controller that looked like an Uzi that could detect where on the screen you aim it at. So it basically had what we today would refer to as motion controls. Why not port it to VR then, I guess. Operation Wolf Returns first mission is a revival of the original Operation Wolf game for VR platforms. It's an on-rail shooter trying to capture the essence of 80s action movies. Not gonna lie, that looks fun to me. Stupid, mindless fun. Operation Wolf Returns first mission is scheduled to release for all VR platforms on July 13th.
Operation Wolf returns. First mission VR.
On the same day comes Battle Bows. It's basically a wave mode defense game with bows. You can choose one of 4 elemental alignments which will augment your attacks. You can play it solo or co-op. There are multiple difficulty settings, leaderboards and an endless mode. The game pretty much looks like Longbow, which you can play for free as part of Valve's The Lab, but at least it has co-op. Could be fun with friends for a while if they price it accordingly. Battle Bows should release on July 13th on Steam and the Quest 2. T for God is an interesting one. This is a room scale game that adapts to the size of your play space. Let me explain. The game will use your boundaries to create levels that fit into your play space. If you have a small space, the game will consist of narrow winding corridors. If you have a lot of space available, the size of the rooms will scale accordingly. The levels that are created that way don't make any sense geometrically, but they do succeed in giving the player the illusion that he is actually walking through a giant maze. There's no locomotion in the game apart from using your legs, so in real life you will be pacing in circles around your play space like a zoo animal, while in game you will be traversing a vast mysterious complex. There are 3 different game modes: a relaxed walking game, it's not a walking sim, you don't simulate walking, you actually walk, a story focused adventure mode and a more challenging roguelike mode. There's a bit of shooting robots to be done and lore to discover with surprisingly decent voice acting. The whole thing is a bit light on gameplay, it's not a looker either, but it's a truly unique experience that plays unlike anything you have played before. T for God is a well-known side quest for a while now. A full release on Steam is scheduled for July 19th.
Where is everybody?
The station looked deserted until the first robot fired.
In the sequel to the very well received Yupitergrad, you shoot ropes with suction cups to Peter Parker your way through a Soviet-style space station. There's a big exploration focus with Metroidvania-like elements. Unlike the first game, you now also have guns to shoot rebel robots. There will be secrets to find, upgrades to collect, and mediocre jokes to endure. That's not my opinion, but a feature they list on the Steam page. The game is actually out since May only on PICO devices and got more or less ignored because of that. We have a confirmation for a July release on the Quest 2, the HTC XR Elite, and on Steam. No exact date yet. Also no word on a PlayStation release. The first part was playable on the PSVR 1, so I would assume that it will come to Sony's new VR hardware at some point. Before we wrap it up, there are some games that got ported to other platforms that are worth mentioning. Survivor is a zombie co-op shooter that released 2 years ago on Steam. It looks a bit plain but was well received, people like it. About half a year ago it got a PSVR 1 version for some reason, and since June 16th it's also available for the PSVR 2, with crossplay between the PSVR 2 and the PC version, but not with the PSVR 1 version as I understand it. But it's a free upgrade if you bought the game on PlayStation before. Until You Fall is a roguelike sword fighting game that originally released on Steam in 2020, got a Quest and a PSVR version a bit later. Since June 21st it's available on Sony's new VR hardware. It's one of the best, I absolutely adore the game. I put a link to my review in the description below. There's no upgrade pass if you own the PSVR 1 version though. That's a very unfortunate decision, Shell Games, come on. The PSVR 2 version for the action-adventure shooter Hubris was initially announced for May but got pushed back to June. It's out now, since the 22nd to be precise. And not only that, it's also out on the Quest 2. Many people like this one, I did not enjoy it very much. In case you're interested in my perspective, again, link description. That's it for this month. If you watched all the way through to the end, I appreciate you. Leave a like and subscribe and I will appreciate you even more. See you on the next one.